All right, team, we are live here on the Smarter San Diego Facebook page. We're sharing it on my personal here momentarily. I have Steve Ploetz joining me today. I'm going to bring him on in a second. A lot going on, huge movement again today in the market, unfortunately, in the bad direction, if you like low interest rates, that is. NMLS 155010. I'm Derrick Evans, VA Home Loan Specialist, and I'm going to bring on my buddy, and you've seen him on here before, Steve Ploetz. My man is back in the house. What's going on, Steve?
What's up? Thanks for
What's
having me back.
Yes, it's been too long, brother. Are
I'm
you,
I'm excited to hear your input, your expertise. A lot of good discussions, a lot happening in our real estate world here in the last feels like in the last week that there's this discussion of like, is this shifting? What's going on? What certainly jump into the interest rates because I think that's the number one piece here, and then we can kind of throw tomatoes back and forth virtually, of course.
we will be throwing tomatoes. We usually disagree about things, which is healthy. I think the whole world could learn from our discussions just in that regard. So interest rates is where we're going to start. Now, originally we had set this up. We were going to talk about should you invest in California versus out-of-state real estate. So we also have a graph, an inventory graph of the nation, which is going to be very interesting for people to take a look at because there's macro items at work here, Steve. There's definitely things going on that are above our pay grade. But the good news is we can see these things coming out. Now, I don't know if you caught what I shared yesterday or not. Oops, we're going to show that in a second. That's not going to be what we're going to show right now. See, I'm a one-man production, Steve, these days. It's the milk hasn't gone bad, but it's getting there. All right, so here is what I would call probably one of the ugliest runs in mortgage bonds that I've seen. Save what happened right when COVID hit in March. Okay, when COVID hit in March, it was a little crazier than this. But you can see here, mortgage bond prices have just kind of done nothing but trend down lower. And the last 10 days in particular have gone way lower. Today was horrific. We lost 112 basis points today. So let me put this in context for you. Right now, we are approximately 1% higher in interest rate. Lots of variables there, but approximately 1% higher in interest rate on all programs than we were at the all-time low. So we're 1% above the all-time lows, and that really happened in a short period of time. And so what we want to address here first before we talk about out-of-state real estate and what real estate investors are going to do and what is going to happen is when and where does this affect the market? Is this it? Because, Steve, as you know, I've been saying, listen, this market is going to run. It's going to run. The only thing that could hurt it, the only thing that could bring it down, the only thing that could crush this market, the only thing that could stop this momentum would be higher mortgage rates. Now we have higher mortgage rates. So, Steve, are you going to subscribe to what I have been claiming, or are you going to take another side on this?
Have I ever subscribed to what you've claimed ever? I mean, in our long relationship, have I ever subscribed? So, Derrick, you do a great job of getting really granular, getting down to why things happen, what's going on. Here's my thought. My thought is, I'm not as smart as you. I look at it from the most basic of demand, supply. What do we got? And of course, right now, what we're experiencing today and what we have experienced for about the last 11 months. Look at that. Hey, look,
See, high school
beautiful.
production is not so bad anymore.
I'm waiting for favorite color is gray, those types of things to also appear as we do this. So, anyways, back on topic. Supply and demand. What we have right now, what we've had for like the last year is very high demand, very low supply. What you're basically speculating on is a discussion of will the interest rates, how they have hiked, will that bring down demand? Everybody agrees that we're way out of whack right now in terms of supply and demand. And that in order for us to have an equilibrium market, we've got to have some level of those being near each other. And there's obviously a couple of different ways that could happen. One is supply increases. That for whatever reason, sometimes that's things like distressed property, people talking about, well, short sales, foreclosures, those types of things. Or it might be a situation where enough people go, holy moly, if I can get what he got, yes, I will list my house. And that brings more supply to the market. That people say, great, I'll list my house and let's see what we can do. What you're speculating on, or the discussion that you're having, is what's really going to happen, perhaps, is that a increase in the interest rate will bring demand down. And maybe it'll make it so that some people can't qualify anymore. Maybe there is certainly a demographic that gets exhausted by this market, that feels like, hey, they've submitted 10 offers, they keep getting bid out. They look at the prices that things sell for, and they've sold $80,000, $100,000 over the asking price, and they just have gotten to like, all right, we're out. There is some of those that are getting out of the market, but right now I would say overall, due to a variety of different things, money is still historic. I mean, screw the saying historically. The interest rates have been remarkable, incredible, spectacular, any other trite word that you can use in that spot. And yes, they have increased, but they're at 3.5%. I'm sure lenders like yourself are still refining people out of interest rates that have been higher than that, or just closed people that
True.
potentially were at 3 3/4 or something like that. So what we are both speculating on, you and I, is what's gonna happen. Now they've gotten to a space that is 3.5, let's just say for round numbers, they're still excellent. If they go to 4.5, 5, then I think we're going to start to see an impact. So to answer your question, is this the beginning of the end? I would say not yet, because there's so much demand that is out there. Agents across the board in San Diego County have had experiences of, they write an offer and the listing agent is telling them, yeah, we have 22 offers. So of course that means 21 people are not getting that house and are still in the market to buy a house. So we need 21 houses, for lack of a better, for this illustration, we need 21 houses to hit the market in that area for that inventory to get gobbled up. So will some people step out? Maybe. I think that for anybody that's sitting on the fence, now what they have is the combination of very high prices still, and the feeling like, and if we had gotten into this market 3 weeks ago and locked our interest rate, our payment would be X, and now it's X plus 20% or whatever it may be.
Yeah, significant. So let me just kind of jump in here, Steve, because I think what you're saying makes sense. It does. But what we're looking at here is also, there's psychological implications. When you're asking buyers for blood, in order to get it, when you're asking for a firstborn, you have to be able to tell them, hey, listen, you're getting the lowest interest rates in history. This is part of what comes with it. When they start realizing that they're not getting that, I think you're going to see buyer demand tip off. I don't think you're going to see those short sales and foreclosures. Like, I don't even think you can short sale. It doesn't matter when you bought, you're up. So, it would just be a traditional sale if someone got into a distressed situation, most likely. But in mass, let's say.
Right.
But
in mass, I agree.
For the buyers who I believe are going to become fully exhausted once they learn that rates have gone up, at least in the short term, rates could go down in the next 2 weeks the same way they went up, and then I would say it would be game on if that were the case. But if they stay at these levels, then I think you're going to see a lot of these buyers who are just exhausted by this market have that be the straw that breaks the camel's back, where they just go, you know what, it's time to sign a lease and we'll look at it again next year.
And I think that also you do a better job than most lenders in terms of keeping your clients informed as to what's happening in the market and what's changing. You and I talked previously about a client where you were timing the market so that they locked at a very good time, because you keep your eyes on the economic factors of what's happening in our nation, globally, and how that will impact interest rates. My perception, working with all types of clients, is that the average run-in-the-mill buyer isn't checking interest rates every single day. Most of them have an idea when they first speak with a lender as to, they'll get like hey, what do you think ballpark is my payment? And then typically only when they look at locking the rate, does it come up and they go, oh no, there's been some significant change. You do a better job of staying in front of your clients and communicating with them and providing them real levels of service. And so I think that will allow those people to make more educated decisions sooner. What I would foresee in this, when I see.
Uh-oh. I think we may have lost Steve.
Oh,
Oh, there he is. I heard him. Is he
am I
back?
back?
So here's what I was going to say before you interrupted me. So I like how you interrupt me and then give me a compliment, and that's how you get away with interrupting me. But I'm just telling you, I'm going to call you out. Your secrets don't work on me anymore. All the funny math that you do and all this stuff. So, where I was headed with that was that, I said when they find out, and when is that going to be? I'll give you an example. I have a buyer who just found out today, because he's in a multiple offer situation for a property in Mount Helix. It's in the 900s. And he's a very good buyer with high credit score, big down payment, W-2 job, very simple, straightforward, the type of buyer who gets an offer accepted in this market. And he called me to say, okay, hey, I just want to see kind of how crazy I should go. Then, of course, we talk about payments, and I explained to him what's going on with rates. I actually called him and say, hey, give me a call. So we talked about it. He said, yeah, we're thinking about coming back here or there. And his thought on it was, the payment after recalculated for him was up about 200 and change per month from what we had previously discussed at the same price point. So what he decided to do was not to increase his offer any further. So he decided to stick with where he was and just kind of see what happens. And if we don't get it, we don't get it. And I think that you're right. Most buyers won't find this information out right away. It will take 4 to 6 weeks, I believe, for us to really see. So rates would have to stay at this level. And that's the key. Yeah, we're here right now. But if they come back, many buyers out there may not ever know that things changed. And I know there's a lot of lenders hoping that's what happens. But I'm telling you, lenders, don't just sit there and pray and hope that happens. Like, inform your people, let them know what's going on. Even if things come back, people will appreciate being kept in the loop about what the heck is going on, because that's part of what they believe, that they're expecting from you. So, with regard to that, if it takes 4 to 6 weeks, and let's say rates stay at this level, what's going to happen? I think we're just going to see a lot of demand diminish, because let's bring up your chart. So Steve actually brought this to the table today. I'm going to give him a little bit of credit, where it's due here. This is from Keeping Current Matters, right? Steve Harney. Or Harvey, or what? No, Steve Harney, right? Steve Harney.
Steve Harvey is a little different. That's Family Feud.
Steve Harvey, yeah, Steve Harvey's Family Feud, correct. So this shows inventory levels year over year. So this same time last year, right, which was pre-COVID. I mean, there was mumblings, but we didn't have a COVID situation yet. And just shows you how down inventory is in all these different places. So what we're talking about, the demand for real estate that we've been experiencing in California, is not unique to our area. Like, if I believed it was a San Diego thing for a long time, until I had friends buying houses in Missouri. And we're like, yeah, it was crazy. We had to do this and this and this, and we got beat out a few times first. I'm like, what? And so you can see here, this is a macro thing. I don't know, Steve. I don't know what it would cause the entire country, other than, the lockdown bringing people's real estate scenario to the forefront. I don't know what else would cause a system-wide enormous spike in demand, which would loot the inventory available by these enormous numbers. I can't think of anything.
So, well, and I'll tell you what would be very interesting to see would be to see this graph juxtaposed next to the same graph of demand, and look at year over year, what has the demand looked like in the last 12 months? Because as a guess, I can only speak intelligently about San Diego County, but it's hard to get a feeling of, has the demand stayed high and constant, and the inventory has dropped, which has just made it feel like there's so much more demand, or is the demand actually increasing? I don't think, based on the experience that you gave, and I realize that that's the micro of one situation, one buyer, et cetera, but I do think that there will be an impact with interest rates where a buyer says, we still want to buy a house, but we're not willing to go as high, because we had gone into this expecting that our payment was going to be X, $3,000, $3,500, whatever the number is. And now the idea of going, hey, we had planned on $3,200 as our budget. We don't want to spend $3,700. And if the market doesn't bear it, then we're going to have to look elsewhere. I don't think that demand is going away. I think that demand is going to pivot. I think people that have made up their minds that it's a good opportunity to invest, or their family needs it, or they've outgrown their spaces, or those types of things, I think they're still going to look to purchase, but they're not going to be willing to give up their firstborn child and their kidney the way that they have been for the last year, basically.
Agreed. Agreed. I think that you're 100% correct in the fact that people are still going to want to buy. But what I'm saying is that I think people may push the pause button. And if that happens collectively as a result of sustained higher rates where we are today, for example, then you will see, I still think we're going to see multiple offers. I still think sellers are going to have, a lot to choose from. And I still think there's going to be uninformed buyers who believe that the frenzy is still on. That they're going to think that the frenzy is still happening, even though there's only 2 people they're competing against instead of 20. And so you're going to see maybe some people overpay here and there. But that won't happen, I don't think, as much in some of the micro markets. But as an example, let's look here. So California actually as a whole is one of the ones that has more inventory in comparison to this time last year than other states. I'm looking at my home state of Missouri, almost 50%, 47% less inventory. Idaho, almost 70% less inventory. Look at that. That's just wild. But I'm trying to buy investment properties in the state of Missouri right now. And Steve, I can't get an offer accepted.
And so let me ask you, so interest rates have just jumped 1 point. Let's just call it for round numbers. Obviously, it depends on the scenario. Has it impacted you in a way that you're like, no, forget it. I'm out. I'm not going to invest. The numbers still work, right?
The numbers still work, yeah.
And so maybe you pivot a little bit, and maybe you go, all right, I was going to do 200,000, and now I'm only comfortable at 175, or I don't know the numbers, but
you're right.
I mean, I think you're still looking. And I mean, just so you know, I'm in escrow on a purchase. I'm looking. I still feel like there's a lot of opportunity in this market, and it remains a good opportunity to buy.
You're in escrow here in San Diego?
Yes.
Multi-unit or single family?
No, it's an investment property. I'm actually doing a 1031 exchange, listing actually my condo, the first condo that I purchased, getting listed today, and have identified the property that I'm going to purchase, and got an offer accepted.
Nice.
So,
well, yes, correct, and that's my sentiment where it comes from. Is that yes, I'm still interested. Yes, I'm still going to look, but I'm not going to be willing to keep writing above asking and doing all this stuff that I've been doing. I'm gonna want to kind of take it a little bit easy here and see what happens and let this kind of flush out. So. Yes, I'm still interested. Yes, I'm still going to be looking, but I'm going to be a little bit less willing, to go the extra mile. And I think we're going to see that same thing with buyers here. So
Derrick, let me interrupt you with a compliment that allows me to talk more about myself. So let me ask you, which is, you do a really good job of keeping your eyes on what's going on in the market. And in your opinion, since you're looking to purchase, let's just say for round numbers that the the interest rates have just jumped 1%. If you had concern that it might jump another percent, maybe it would motivate you to jump into the market and try to buy something in Missouri right away. It's interesting to kind of hear. It kind of sounds like the opposite, which is it just jumped a percent, and now you're kind of feeling like, let me hold my horses. I kind of want to wait and see. Let me see what happens. Is that accurate?
Well, it also matters what you're looking to buy. Like I'm not competing against other investors. I'm competing against first-time buyers. So right. my strategy for buying properties in Missouri for investment purposes is because I know where there are good school districts in the area of Missouri where I'm looking to buy, and where there are no homes for rent, literally zero. So I can go in and monopolize that almost at this point. But I'm competing against first-time buyers who are looking to own or occupy. And so there's a different set of motivation, right? There's a different attachment. There's a different approach to it. It'll take them a little longer, I think, to become aware of the marketplace and what's going on. But I'm laser focused on that. But I have no timeline. I don't have to buy anything. I don't have to do anything now, or I don't have to do anything later. I could do nothing if I want to. Whereas a lot of these people are looking for a home to live in. So there will always be that sort of disadvantage, but I'm looking for the entry level, first home you buy, 3-2, detached house with a small yard. that I can rent and get a premium on because there's nothing for rent. So if you want a house to
So,
rent, you're going to come to me.
so what are you hoping for? I mean, are you hoping for your personal situation when it comes to investing in Missouri? Are you hoping that interest rates go higher and values come down? Are you hoping that interest rates drop again and you remain in this same frenzy? What's your ideal situation for you personally?
Well, that's what I'm saying is that interest rates aren't as crucial because I'm buying at a smaller price point, right? I mean, we're talking 150 grand,
Right.
125 to 175, let's say. So the interest rate doesn't affect
Okay.
the payment that much. It will, but not as much as if you're buying for 700,000. So it's not as much of a factor. What's more of a factor to me and what I hope for is that there continues to be no houses for rent in these areas. I know where the
Yeah.
good school districts are. I know there's nothing for rent in those areas. So I want to own that. I want to have that. And as long as that remains the case, if the interest rates move up or down a little bit, it's not going to make that strategy no longer make sense.
And I think what you're doing is wise because rentals are more sticky because people get into a rental for a year's time. So they're signing a lease at today's pricing and they're paying that same price in rent, typically, if they're in a year lease, in February of 2022.
Mhm.
And so if there's an adjustment in prices or an adjustment in interest rates where that might affect the landlord or the investor, it doesn't actually impact it. It takes longer for renters to feel that. So unless there's something significant that all of a sudden the bottom drops out. But I feel like what happens when the bottom drops out or when there's this perception that the whole world all of a sudden takes a pause, it's as a quick tangent, it's always funny to me when I hear clients say, well, what I want to do is I want to wait and see for this market to drop, which we had that. We had that almost a year ago about this time when COVID was announced, and all of a sudden the whole world went, oh hell, and hit the pause button. And I'll tell you what I did is I called 10 different investors and 10 different people that are in these kind of similar categories that said, hey, I wanted to wait until the market dropped. And I called them all and basically said, you got what you wanted, which is the market is dropping right now. And now's the time to jump in because everybody is waiting. Literally 10 out of 10 all said, not right now. I want to wait and see what happens. So I think this perception that somehow the market is going to drop, it's going to impact everybody else, but not me, because I'm going to be ready and I'm going to have my dice handy and my lucky rabbit's foot, and I'm just going to jump right in. It's a mindset thing of sitting on the sidelines and trying to time the market. I don't want to say you're never going to be able to time the market, but you and I, Derrick, have done numerous bits over the years about what happens if you get it wrong when you play the game of getting in and getting out.
Yeah, it can be expensive.
And it can be really expensive.
Well, here's
so
what to do with that, and I'm just going to go ahead and fire off because this is what you're doing. It's Russian roulette, right? I mean, well, at some point you're gonna be wrong, and it's gonna be very expensive. So hopefully you'll be right at least that often. But I think what is important to understand about that is most people they wish for a crash. Oh, I'm going to buy so much when the market crashes, but you don't realize what that also means. That means they always say buy stocks when there's blood in the streets. Do this, do that. I remember when there was the flash crash in 2018 of the stock market. It was February 2018. You went outside and you were talking to your stockbroker and you were like, "We're buying." And I was like, what stones? Because it was ugly. I actually sold. I was wrong. You were right. There you go. So, it's very difficult to pull the trigger when things get ugly. Now, everyone wishes for that when things are good. Oh, I wish it would just drop because they think they'll have the same feeling they have now of the security. No, that goes out. It all of a sudden becomes risky now. There's uncertainty. That's the reason the prices come down. And most people don't have the backbone, myself included. Many times I've blown huge opportunities.
Oh, we all have, myself included. And I think the thing is, there's this perception that in order to be ready for those kinds of opportunities, you need to be sitting in cash. You need to be liquid, because otherwise, as an example, talking about the stock market, if you're invested in the stock market and the stock market takes a giant dump, then all of a sudden you're going to jump in more. If you're jumping in more, you need to have some money on the sidelines that can jump in. And probably, not to speak for financial advisors in our society now, but probably if you went to your financial advisor today and said, hey, I want to just keep 90% of my money on the sidelines in cash liquid, every one of them would say, I guess maybe if you wanted to do something in the next 6 months, but you're losing out on all this opportunity of growth by not being invested in the market, by getting 0.0001% on your money when put it in something conservative. It's just, it it always sounds so glamorous, like, hey, the market's going to drop and then I'm going to swoop in and I'm going to get some killer deal and I'm going to be the smart guy. But exactly to your point, that's that psychology of when things are falling, they impact all of us. And so to be in a place where you think that I'm just going to have the wad of cash on hand and just jump right in. So
One of your fans has joined us here, Steve, Evan Montez, who leaves some hilarious comments on our YouTube and Facebook. He's been missing you, man. So here, Steve is back just for you, Evan. Now, Evan is a smart guy, and he asked a pretty good question here. So let's see if we can tackle this, Steve. He says, demand down or affordability down, are these mutually exclusive? And
ooh,
I think that's rhetorical. I think he knows that they are not. I would argue that as interest rates rise, the shift will be to more affordable homes within each individual's budget and therefore increased demand on the lower end as those that might have been able to purchase a higher price home demand to lower price points. In other words, higher rates will condense demand. I think he's got a pretty darn good point here. And, this is, and by the way, we're live right now on Facebook. If you want to drop us a comment, if you want to say hi, we'll give you a shout out. We're hanging out here and having fun for probably another 10 or 15 minutes. So, he's right. We've seen this happen before where demand gets condensed into lower price points and you can have like a stale listing at $850 and crazy dozens of offers at, $450 or $500. We've seen that before. I mean, within, the last handful of years. And he's right. That very well could be the case. I don't know how, demand could be any crazier at the lower price points than it is right now, but that very well could be what happens, Steve.
I think the biggest impact that we will see in a change in interest rate is to the median sales price, is to like the regular everyday husband and wife buying a house at 700,000. In the jumbo market, in my opinion, most of those buyers have significant down payments. There's a lot of cash transactions. There's a lot of situations where a change in the interest rate is certainly a bummer and it certainly changes their payment, but it's not enough to deter them in a significant way, in my opinion. I'd be interested to see the numbers of the jumbo transactions that we have going right now, or have recently done. I think 3/4 have been cash. One of them, a guy's putting $2 million down on a 3.8. So he's putting 50% down. Yes, a change in the interest rate is a giant bummer, but it's not a situation where he can't afford it anymore. Who it impacts, though, is us. Quote unquote, regular people that live in $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 purchases. To your point, Derrick, about trying to buy something at $850, now all of a sudden our $3,500 payment, $4,000 payment jumps up by 10%, 15, 20%. So a $4,000 payment that goes to $4,500, that becomes a little harder to stomach. And I think that's where we will see it. I certainly agree with Evan at the lower end, as you're talking about purchasing in Missouri. I don't see that there'll be some kind of crazy change all of a sudden, particularly when rental rates tend to be so sticky.
Yeah. And I think mostly what makes sense about Evan's comment is that there's clearly, if we saw the graph that we had up earlier with the drop in inventory, there's something more macro going on. Like the people you're talking about that are paying all cash. I know I got beat out in an offer in Missouri that was all cash. Where is all this cash coming from? Well, mind you, the stock market's been straight up for a decade. Right. Real estate has been straight up for a decade. So people who have been ringing the register have been taking home big profits.
Right.
I've had the best 4 months in the stock market I've probably ever had. Hit some grand. I had 2 grand slams in the last 4 months. So there is cash floating around. People think that it's a stimulus. People think that it's things that the government has done. I don't know if that's the case. I mean, there's definitely been some involvement in how those things have affected things. But I believe, Steve, and I don't know if you were privy to this or not in the video that I did yesterday, but my oil.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oil, I think right now is the thing. It's the only thing I can point to and say, here's something that has changed. Here's something that may be scaring people. And I'll just go ahead and put the graph back up here on the screen. But you can see, oops. Sorry about that. This screen. I have two screens. Sorry, guys. There's oil. So, this is, since we go back to November here, you can see oil's gone up about 50%. And, during the previous time that Joe Biden was in the White House, oil prices reached record highs. This is great if you own Exxon, Chevron, like I do, like your boy's been telling you. These companies are going to make money hand over fist, and it's going to get better. Not only that, they're paying huge dividends. So there's people who are going to make tons of money from this. But overall, this is a tax. This is basically a tax on everything. That's what the increased price in oil is. It's going to cost more for stuff to get from here to there, from A to Z, for people to warm their homes. We know we're experiencing record colds and stuff like that right now, or record freezing temperatures in different places like Texas and so forth. It makes everything more expensive. It makes it more expensive for you to put gas in your car to go from here to there. People aren't commuting as much, so I think the impact of this could be worse. But I believe the market is pricing in oil to essentially double from where it is right now. And that is the only thing I can find, Steve, that would make me believe or understand why the bond market is getting crushed on a daily basis. And, with all the things that we've seen that have been so positive, such a huge demand for real estate, people coming out of the woodworks, people paying all cash, people moving money from other investments into real estate. I mean, we've seen a huge dump of cash into real estate nationwide, per the graph we showed earlier. And I don't know how much it's going to take to slow that down. But my original prediction was interest rates would be what it would be. And we've seen a significant increase. So, Steve, we're going to find out if I was right or not, I believe.
Well, and to your point, I feel like we have heard, there's been speculation for the last, my goodness, you and I were on Smarter San Diego and all the other things that we have done for so many years. We were talking about, will there be a correction in the market years ago? I mean, it wasn't that long ago, maybe 2 years ago, I made a bet 3 years ago about Oceanside, that whether year over year, the value would increase, something like that. I think we actually, maybe it was 2 years ago, because I think we discovered that I was right yet again on a Zoom call.
You said 10%, I think, is what it was.
I did not say, you can play the tape back. I didn't say 10%. I said it would increase.
You said 10% or something like that.
I'll bet $100 I did not say 10%.
You said some amount, and I said, okay, I'll take the under.
This is a hedge bet. I'll take it. I think I said 0.01% up in that direction. I'm just saying that what we have discussed, this discussion about, well, is the market going to change? Is it going to shift? A normal cycle is 6-7 years. It's not 6 or 7 years. We're well beyond that. It's now, 2009 was the bottom, 2000 in that area. So it's now, we're going on 12 years, which all is meaningless. There isn't a specific amount of time. Lights have gone out here, but that's okay. We'll continue to have conversations. There isn't a specific amount of time here. And I just look at the macro of supply and demand. My goodness, there is a lot of demand. My goodness, there is a very little amount of supply. And yes, I'm sure that we will have some impact here with some demand will decrease. But overall, I just don't see a significant change.
Okay. All right. So are we making wagers now? Is that the time?
Yeah, I'm going to the backup light. That's what we're doing. And yes, I'll continue with my wagers.
Well, my original prediction at the end of last year was that we would see prices in San Diego County increase by 10% this year. And that was before CoreLogic had released theirs. I think they said 8.75, yes. Like that. 8.75.
Yeah, and I think the California Association of, so last year, the California Association of Realtors released that San Diego County in 2020 went up 12.2%. I think you're right in line with all the smart people that are saying that. And let me ask you, does the last 2 weeks amend your bet in any way?
It does. It does.
Oh,
I still see prices increasing this year because first of all, this will take a little while to this will take a little while to kind of come through the other side. And also, I think that we've had a big beginning to this year where you've seen prices go up a lot, and a lot of comps have been established that will impact future prices for sure. A lot of people don't realize how important those comps are. When someone pays above appraised value, they're establishing a new norm, and to unwind that, you need the next person to accept less than that. And so it's not that easy, in a non-distressed market for prices to go down. You can see you do get the motivated seller here and there who's up enough anyway that they say, all right, fine, we'll take 680. We think we could get 700, but we don't have the time. And so I think it'll take a little bit of time for this to flush out. So I'm still positive for the year. I still think we're going to see about 5%. But
you cut it in half.
I'm having it. Yeah, I got to have it.
Wow. Just based on this last 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, this is macro, bro. This is something that's bigger than boots on the street. You and I on the service side, the buyers and sellers who are actually out there making the transactions happen. It's bigger than that. I don't know what it is, but you don't see the bond market move like this unless something tremendous is going on. Like, for example, the last time we saw this was COVID. Like that, the last time we saw this kind of volatility in the market was when we believed at the time that there was a worldwide pandemic and people were going to start dropping dead in the grocery stores. So that's where that's how the market is acting right now.
So give me your top 3 conspiracy theory. You're allowed to, for the next 1 minute, you're allowed to go totally rogue. Why?
No.
Why is it happening? Why?
I don't know. That's why I'm saying. That's why I brought up oil, because that's the only thing I can make sense out of. There's no data that shows anything else. There's no indication that there's something else that is at play. It just simply oil being a tax on everyone. Okay, if let's say gas prices double, how much? That's basically like taxing everyone to average $250 a month, $300 a month. I don't know, whatever it is. That is like adding a bill to everybody's bill list, which means that they'll stop spending more elsewhere, right? They'll tighten up on other things, and that brings the reins in. It's the same kind of thing that we dealt with back in, I can't remember what year it was, when we had $6 gas. It is a tax on everything. So, Steve, if you want to get out your wallet, you're going to need it. You got that fatty in there somewhere? Where is that big boy?
I got to get the crane to get it real quick.
You got to crane it from the car. Yeah, you can't steal that thing unless you're a bodybuilder. So I have to get my wallet dig in.
I still got it. Still the same wallet.
So I think that if it's not oil, then it's something scary. If it's oil, then at least it makes sense. At least it makes sense. Yeah. And we can go, okay, now we know what to pivot off of. If we start to see more oil supply come in, if we start to see, we know that some things will lighten the load. But if we don't know what's causing the problem, then we don't know where to watch to see when it's going to change, when it's going to fix. So that's why I'm trying to identify where is the source of this? Because this came out of the blue, man. I mean, all we knew was the Federal Reserve is buying mortgage bonds hand over fist to keep the rates down. And then all of a sudden we have, mortgage bonds getting crushed. And then yesterday, don't know if you heard this or not, but the federal wires were shut down for about 2 hours. So we just got an email internally. Hey, the Fed has shut down wiring of money. We don't have an ETA, but your loans aren't going to fund, basically. And then 2 hours later, okay, they're back up. I mean, talk about, scaring the bejesus out of everyone. Because here I'm sitting here thinking, well, at least we have a big locked pipeline. If rates are going to go up and we're going to have a tough couple of months figuring things out, at least we have a nice locked pipeline. And then all of a sudden you get that email and you go, well, maybe that pipeline is not going to fund. That's where we were at yesterday. So it got dark.
Boy, And the lights just went out here. You're making me nervous. Maybe I should go buy some canned goods, huh? So you're a buyer in this market. I'm a buyer in
Yep.
this market.
Yep.
What do you recommend to people that our demographic looks at the market? I mean, and whether joking or not joking, like the SNL Zillow thing that everybody has talked about. My question to you is, what should we do? Should we wait and see? Should we jump in? What should we do in this market, in your opinion?
Oh, well, I'll just tell you what I'm going to do, which is I'm going to continue to look and continue to make offers, but I'm not going to be crazy. Just don't be crazy. Stop with the crazy. Okay. That would be my best advice. Like, stop it.
That's great advice. You're changing the title of this. Stop with the crazy.
Stop with the crazy, please. Not only for yourself, but for everyone else. All these things that people are doing to win properties. I don't know if it's emotional, if it's a competitive. Listen, I'm competitive too. Like, I don't like losing. I've missed out on 3 offers in a row. It's like, and so part of me is like, oh, wait till we get the next one. Oh, I'm going to bring the hammer on the next one. Nobody's going to get the next one but me. That's the competitor inside of me is like, oh, get me back in the ring. But then but what you have to do right here is you have to just continue to look, continue to make reasonable offers that you're comfortable with. And if those offers don't work for the sellers, okay. It's okay. It's okay. Your agents won't hate you for making offers on properties. Now, obviously that doesn't mean you can go out and lowball people. Well, I'm just going to offer 10% below list until someone accepts it. That's stupid. But, go make reasonable offers that are acceptable, but just stop with the crazy. Don't do any of that stuff. Paying, way above appraised value, waiving contingencies. Let's stop that. Right now is a good time to go ahead and stop that. At least protect yourself a little bit, give yourself a chance to get out if you don't like what you see. I think that's the biggest advice right now, because so many buyers are resorting to that because there's literally no other option, Steve. If you want to get an offer accepted, there's literally no other way to go about it. So I would say knock that off and make reasonable offers and keep an eye on the market and try to stay in. That's exactly what I'm going to do.
Again, Derrick, that's sound advice. Seriously, that's great advice. And I think that for so long, the transaction has been so one-sided. To just be able to say the whole idea of any transaction, but certainly the real estate transaction, is that it's a win-win. And for so long, it feels like it's been a win-lose, that the buyer loses. The buyer gives up everything, buys it as is, pays over the appraised value, all these different things. I think that is wise advice.
Thank you, sir. And we're going to end on that note.
The end.
And we're done. Please share this video. Steve Ploetz, thank you so much for your time, bro. It's great to see you. Great to chat with you. We will do this again in person as soon as humanly possible, which I think is not that far away, to be honest with you. I appreciate your insights, joining us, sharing your knowledge as well, man. It's great to see you, brother.
Absolutely. Love you, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
You too, man. Hey, and share this video with your friends, all right? Let's try to keep people in the know about what's going on. I mean, bottom line is we have a duty here. We have inside information. We need to be sharing it. If you're in the space, if you're a lender, keep people informed. Don't shy away from these difficult conversations, these difficult situations. It's important that we share information, that we work as a team. We should be working with real estate agents to help educate people about how to make smart decisions in a situation like this. So let's do that together. If you have questions about the VA home loan benefit, or if you know a veteran who's looking to buy a home and would like more information, you can have them call or text me with the information on the screen, and I'm happy to help them. That is my passion. That is what I love to do every single day. All right, that's it. Let's share this video with your friends and help make them smarter than everyone else. See you guys soon.